Hey, it's Joe Amoia, founder and creator of GPSforlove.com. Today we're going to talk about the number one source of pain in your love life. And believe it or not, this thing is not just the number one source of pain in your love life, it's the number one source of pain in all of your life. You know, it's something, there's not a day that goes by where I don't get an email or a phone call from one of the members of our GPS for Love community that goes something like this. Joe, dating this guy, in a relationship with guy, he does this, I don't get it, I don't understand it, doesn't make sense. And I understand, because when you give your heart to someone, you hope that they're going to do things a certain way. But ultimately, you find out very often, more often than not, that they don't. And so when you look at it, the number one source of pain in your life, and especially your love life, is your expectations. See, you expect guys to be a certain way. You expect them to call when they say they're going to call. You expect them to be interested in you as a woman, not just for what's in your pants. And you expect them to have integrity, to do what they say and say what they do, right? Now, we've talked about this endless time in other videos. There's a difference between a boy and a man. And for those of you who've never seen that before, a boy is a guy who's selfish, immature, emotionally unavailable, and only interested in sex. You know, just like a little boy, an adolescent, he hasn't grown up yet. Okay, it's all about him and what he wants. A man, on the other side, is unselfish. He knows there's times and places where he needs to put your needs first. He's emotionally available. Okay, he's emotionally ready to be in a relationship and to be a healthy relationship partner. Okay, he is a stand-up guy, right? He's just there. He wants to be the partner. He knows how to be a partner because being a partner is what he's looking for in his life. And he's interested in other things other than sex. Now, a man's interested in sex just as well, but he's also interested in sharing time with you, having you involved in his life, being involved in your life, literally being a partner, right? So there's a difference between the two. Now, part of the challenge is you expect boys to be men, and they're not. That's like expecting a cat to bark. You know, cats don't bark, they meow. Okay? So expecting a boy to be a man is insanity. So there was a time in my life where I realized that the number one source of pain in my life was my expectations. I was constantly pissed off. I was constantly let down. I was constantly frustrated by other people's behavior. And I said, you know, what do all these things have in common? I go, me. It was my expectations. So what I decided to do is simply get rid of all my expectations. Now, I know you're sitting here going, Joe, but if I get rid of my expectations, I'm just going to become a human doormat. People are going to take advantage of me. Aha, that's the myth. See, what I did is I didn't get rid of my expectations. Well, I did get rid of my expectations, but I simply replaced them with clear lines in the sand, clear boundaries. To this day, I am very, very clear and concise on what my boundaries are, whether it's with my wife, with my children, with my friends, with my clients, with the person at the convenience store, at the cashier at the convenience store. I'm very clear on how I will allow others to treat me. And if they cross those lines, if they cross my boundaries, I simply have a decision to make. Now, if it's someone like my wife or my children or people that I love and care about, most of the time I just simply look at it, was this something intentional? Was it something they did? Because most of the time people don't even realize that what they do causes pain or bothers you. And if it's something I feel that I should bring up, then I simply have a conversation with them and say, hey, you know what? I don't know if you realize it, but when you did this, you know, this is how it made me feel. And more often than not, people who love and care about you go, you know what? Wow, you know what? I didn't even realize that. You know, I'm sorry. I was so caught up in my world. I didn't, you know, I got whatever was going on. And they don't make excuses for it. They take responsibility for it. So that's what healthy people do. And those are the kind of people you want to build relationships with and have relationships with. Now, in the event that they don't want to take responsibility for it, you know, and that usually doesn't happen with people who love you, who are close to you, because they value you and they want a relationship with you. But if there are people who don't, you know, you say, you know, when you did that, it made me feel this way, and say a guy you're dating goes, you know what, well, I was busy, or he comes up with some bullshit excuse, and you start seeing that that becomes a pattern, well, you have a decision to make. See, when you are clear on your boundaries and you clear on your standards and you don't have expectations, you don't make him wrong for not calling when he says he's going to call. Now, I'm not saying that in a perfect world, in a world where everybody should do things a certain way, That would be a much better way to act, but that's just not life. It's unrealistic. There are people who don't have integrity. There are people who lie, people who say and tell you whatever they want so they can get in your pants or they can use you. People who say they want a relationship and then 6 months down the road, they'll run away. That's just, people do what people do. That's the beauty of life. And so when you get rid of your expectations and you have clear boundaries and lines in the sand, you simply give them the opportunity to show you their true colors. And once they show you the true colors, then you get to decide. And I know some of you are going, but Joe, what's the difference? There's a huge difference, because the big difference here is that when you have no expectations and you're clear on your boundaries, once somebody crosses those boundaries, then you simply decide to walk away or to have that conversation. You don't make them wrong. That's the part I want you to get out of this video, is your expectations are they should do things a certain way. And if they don't do them a certain way, they're wrong, right? So for instance, if a guy says he's going to call on Thursday and he doesn't call on Thursday and he calls the following Tuesday, you say he's wrong. Now, I'm not saying he's wrong. Okay, he does what he does. Okay, that's a guy who doesn't have integrity. So people who don't have integrity don't call when they say they're going to call, and then they make excuses for it. Now, the beauty is you get to decide. Okay, this guy doesn't have integrity. He doesn't call when he says he's going to call. So you know what? If he doesn't call when he says he's going to call in the beginning of the relationship, what leads me to believe, what fantasy in my mind leads me to believe he's going to have integrity 6 months, 6 years down the road? You know, a leopard doesn't change its spots. That's, you know, a guy who doesn't have integrity doesn't have integrity. That's just the way it is. So that's your job, is to understand that people are who they are. They're not wrong. They have their right to do whatever they want. If a person wants to shoot heroin, person wants to drink heavily, that is their inherent right. Doesn't mean it's a good, smart, healthy thing to do. Doesn't mean that their choices and decisions don't affect others. But you then get to decide what you want to do in response to that. And that's called standing in your power. One of the biggest mistakes I see the members of our GPS Love community making is they're giving away their power. Well, you know, he doesn't call when he says he calls, and that's not right, and blah, blah, he's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. Who says he has to call? Where's it written? Well, you know, it's the right thing to do. Okay, according to who? Okay, is it a higher consciousness thing to do? Absolutely, but not everybody lives and plays at that level. And that's the beauty of life, is you get to decide. So here's your homework, okay? A little mirror time. I want you to get clear and look at how your expectations have been working against you. That's the first part. And the second part is I want you to really look at where your lines in the sand are, where your boundaries are. Do you have lines in the sand? Do you have healthy boundaries? And if so, do you keep them? If so, that's awesome. But if not, ask yourself, why don't I keep my boundaries? Because then you're going to go a little deeper and get to another cause of why you may struggle in your love life. So there's a famous expression that says, if you want better answers, ask better questions. So that's the purpose of this video, is to help you go deep, to help you understand what's really stopping you from having the relationship that you're looking for, and why it's, and understanding why it's such a struggle for you, because it doesn't have to be. So as always, honor, privilege to be with you. I'll see you next time. Much love.